All right, welcome back to another episode of the Tim and Tim Show. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Tim Vest, how you doing there, buddy? Did you do something with the lighting? Looks a little different.
Actually
You
got
got a
some
glow
lights.
about you, Tim.
Actually got some lights. I got tired of being dark.
Yeah.
Every
Dark
everybody
humor
was
or
like,
dark lighting?
yeah, a little both. Um, everybody was like, they were like, you need to get a better camera. And I'm like, I literally have like the newest MacBook with the highest camera. I mean, and everywhere else it was just fine. I'd see other people using it. It was fine. It's all lighting.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all lighting. It's all lighting. That's
but
why I like, when we designed the other house that we want to build, I had my office facing a window. So
a
you have
window.
natural light looking at you instead of
Yeah.
having it, like this house, it comes from the side, so it's a little blown out,
That's
whatever.
that's what's crazy about like doing shows and podcasting and stuff now is like literally I do the same thing when I'm looking at a house or whatever. I'm like, can I put my desk facing a window? Like
Yeah. Yeah. I'm tired of looking into the dark, gloomy, just boring wall, but hey, it is what it is. You got to play the hand you're dealt.
yeah, yeah.
Um, all right, this week we're talking about something. This was actually Vest's suggestion, so I
Oh
am
boy.
not entirely sure where the origins come from, but I think it's something that I would like to dive into because I think there is this common notion around coaches and educators in the multifamily space that bigger is better. Go as big as you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can. And I understand the sentiment, but now that we own and operate our deals, it makes me look at it through a little bit of a different lens. And ultimately, what is that? What does that really mean? Like, why does bigger deal equal smaller effort or equip? I think maybe that's a little
Same effort.
misleading, right? Because the bigger deals might not be smaller effort; it might be similar effort, right? Same
Yeah.
output in order to get a larger deal done. And me personally, I feel like when you're talking about doing bigger deals and it's a smaller equivalent effort, what I'm talking about is on the asset management side and like kind of making the offer and doing the
Yeah.
closing and like all of the legal work and title work and capital raising is a little bit more because you get to generally bring in more investors. But other than that, a lot of the desk work is literally identical, right? So like I get that. So by terms of like economies of scale, right? By doing a larger deal, generally are going to make more money, right? Because there's more zeros involved, but there's also a lot more risk involved.
Yeah.
And a lot of things can go bad a lot faster on a big deal, more so than they can on a small deal. And my opinion is that, yes, it is the equivalent amount of effort to get a larger deal done
Right.
on the back end work. And the thing that really takes the thing that really takes putting your eye on the ball and paying attention to is the amount of effort at the boots of the ground level is just drastically more, just vastly more. I mean, going through due diligence might take you a couple days to walk all the units and document everything. Actually going through the rent roll and doing the repairs and doing the capex, deploying the construction teams, buying the materials, managing the draw process, that takes a significant more amount of effort because there's a lot more money involved, right? So if you're tighter on liquidity, it makes it a little more difficult, but also there's a lot more coordination. I mean, you got to think about just
Right.
how many more people are coming through the office doors. Like, we have a 128 unit property. We also own and manage a 13 unit property.
Right.
We could have a single day where you have 10 to 20 people come into the office, right? And that by sheer volume is just more work for the boots on the ground people, comparatively, to operating a 13 unit deal, right?
Yeah.
But the effort to close that 13 unit deal was really no different than the 128 unit deal. But the numbers look significantly different.
Yeah, I don't think, I've never thought closing a bigger deal was really that much harder. I mean, obviously it takes a little more time, like you're talking about going through rent rolls and walk-in units and stuff like that, but the actual closing process really isn't that much different. Operating, running, and maintaining and renovating a bigger deal absolutely
Way
takes
bigger
more
deal.
effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to tell people a couple of things I like to tell people. Like in the IT world where I came from, there's a reason why project managers, when we hire project managers, um, if you've never, if you've only managed $1 million budget on a project, we're not hiring you for the $50 million project as a
Not
project
even close.
manager,
No,
right?
absolutely not.
Like you need to have experience with bigger projects. There's a reason for that, right? There's, to your point, there's more things to track. Um, there's just more things to track, even if it's the same bucket of things. There's more in that bucket. Like in the real estate world, I would say, what's easier to track? One refrigerator that you order to the property, or 100 refrigerators that you order to the property, right?
Right.
Um,
Because
so
they're not all coming on the same truck.
no, no. And if they do, I mean, you got to stand there while the guy's delivering them and inspect each one to make sure they're okay. And that kind of stuff. I mean, it just takes more work. It just takes more
More
effort.
effort. Yeah,
Yeah.
more labor hours. And the other side of it is like, when you're going through the rent roll and you're doing renewals and, new leases and things like that, you only have so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
And if you have a lot of people that have expiring leases, for example, you need to schedule all of those out, and then people are inevitably late and don't show up on time, and everything takes longer. In my experience, everything has taken longer with a larger deal just because of the sheer volume of logistics. Um, we've learned through operating deals on how to utilize some tools accessible to us, right? Like Calendly schedules and assistants and virtual assistants and things like that to help with the process of processing that many people and the sheer volume of it. And really what you're trying to do is you're trying to identify the 80% of what is needed that's busy work that you can replicate with very low effort, because that last 20% is the amount of work that you want to be focused on that really truly matters, right? Like where you're actually sitting in front of the person, signing the documents, doing what you need to do. That 20% effort right there is the most important effort that you need to do, but you spend so much time on the other 80%. I mean, that was a huge driving factor in why we decided to onboard the AI system for our organization, because it handles that 80%. And Tim Vest, you said, I mean, obviously you have a lot of software background and information, but you said it most beautifully, is that when the AI company was trying to pitch us, right, on why we should buy and implement this AI system, they're like, well, you can reduce overhead. And Tim Vest, you were like, no, you're wrong. And the guy, yeah, actually caught him on his heels a little bit. What is going on over there?
I
Oh,
don't know. I think it's my
you,
network.
you caught him on his heels a little bit, and it was like, no, we're preventing having to hire more. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Right.
I hadn't looked at it with that perspective before, right? It's because all of that 80% mundane admin work that was not maybe not being done to the best of its ability because the capacity was not there is now being done in a high volume capacity, in which prevented us from having to hire who knows how many virtual assistants to help with kind of scheduling and admin stuff, right? So it's really interesting perspective, and now I feel even more confident now to go after larger deals on the operational side as we continue to learn and evolve with this AI system and see what it really can do. Ideally, it will make it so that we don't have to have like an assistant property manager for a lot of properties, because the assistant property manager would the AI system would handle most of that. And if you think about an assistant property manager, you're probably going to pay them between 40 and $60,000 a year, depending on where you live, maybe, plus or minus, whatever. And if you can get rid of that 60,000, $50,000 a year expense with something that costs you 5 grand a year, you're doing a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Another way too, somebody said something to me over the weekend, actually. I was talking to somebody about it, and they were like, "Oh, you're going to start replacing people." And I was like, "No, I don't look at it like that. I think I'm actually doing this to save jobs." Because at the end of the day, if I don't do something like this, I'm not going to be able to stay competitive in the space. And at the end of the day, if I can't be competitive, I can't stay in business. So, in my mind, we're doing this to stay competitive, create additional capacity without having to hire more, but we're not looking to let anybody go.
Right,
And
right. That was a big selling point, right? Like we're
right,
trying to prevent having to let people go and reduce
right,
hours.
right. So, And if I got to cut costs by reducing manpower, then now I'm just on a slow train to like going out of business in my mind. So
Yeah, it's a race to the bottom at that point, right? Like
yeah,
you can only cut out so much expense before the quality and experience starts to get,
100%,
washed out.
100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's talk about
But
some of the small deals, right? So um small deals, big effort. I can think of one property in particular that has been an enormous effort of work to get done. And a lot of that, again, has to do with the city, unfortunately. But just because it's a small deal doesn't mean that some things that are out of your control are going to be able to be done more quickly, right? And honestly, I will tell you, some of the small deals that we have honestly take significantly more work and they're difficult to manage because you have to get there, right? And you lose a lot of momentum when you go to one of these smaller properties that are a bit more obscure to get to. And it makes it a little bit more difficult to manage those properties. So don't have the notion of a small deal does not take as much effort to manage as a big deal, right? I mean, the closing effort was the same, but this some of these smaller deals, they really they put a burden on our team because it's not in the biggest word I can think of is again a momentum, right? Like it interrupts your momentum and your flow if you go there and you have to go there for like meeting with one person, so you got to drive there, you got to meet with one person, then you got to drive somewhere else. You lost half a day by just getting to the property, getting up to speed, handling a couple things, and then going to the next place, right? Conversely, against going to a large enough property where you just go there all the time, you start to build a rhythm, you start to get momentum of accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. That start stop on smaller properties really puts a burden on the operational efficiency overall.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. You definitely lose time traveling, right? There's
Yes.
and at the end of the day, I don't know how you avoid that. Um, there's you what you look for is you try to look for scale within a market, right? But even so, I mean, to your point, Tim, if I got 10 units over here, 10 units over there, even if it's in the same city, I still got to travel to that other
Yep.
spot, right? So yeah, there's absolutely a way where you can leverage scale on smaller properties in the same market, but they're never going to be as efficient as having 100 units on the same piece of land for sure.
Right.
Um,
Agreed. Yeah, yeah. And that model works for management companies that do, fee-based for profit management, right? Because they could say, "Hey, I'm only going to manage stuff in Charlotte, and maybe it's a
mhm,
specific region of Charlotte, and I'll take on any property in that size, or sorry, I'll take any size in that location because my team is already deployed there and it's
right,
on the route." And it was
right.
actually makes me think about I've been trying to find a landscaper for this property, for this house. And what the last person I talked to said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not going to service it." I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "Well, it's not on my route.
It's
So
not on his
you're
route.
too far out of the way in order for me to make it make sense or make money." And I was like,
Yep.
"Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense." But I hadn't thought about that from like even another service company's perspective of, well, if I do everything on the other side of town, I'm not going to come all the way over here to do your property. For the sake of doing business does not always mean that it's more profitable by
Right.
increasing your revenue, right? It's
Right.
efficiency. And sure, if you batch up a bunch of those smaller deals together, you can absolutely be more efficient, much like a landscaper would think of single family house lawns that they take care of. They're here for all of 15 minutes, but they can't be driving an hour in between each location and bouncing all over the place. So
Right.
I trying to take that perspective into how the management company works. Now, the difference for you and I is we don't do third party management, at least right now. So we only get to manage the opportunities that come across our plate that we end up purchasing, right? So,
Right.
that's why we generally are targeting at least 80 to 100 units plus so that we can have an on-site manager, maintenance guy. You can get away with part-time maintenance, or maybe you can get a full-time maintenance guy that's split between a couple different locations, or use, supplement with a lot of vendors. But having a full-time manager on site is absolutely critical to managing your rent roll and your which includes your renewals, new leases, vacancies, and collections.
Yeah. Tim, I think you said something earlier on, going back to like the the inefficiency or the danger, maybe not the inefficiency, the danger of going bigger faster, right? And and this, I actually Ash Patel and I actually sat at a table 2 years ago in Cincinnati talking about this, and he was kind of on the same page I was with some of the people sitting around the room who were saying, hey, go big, go big, go big, bigger, bigger, same effort, right? And I just kind of made the comment, and I was like, what else comes with bigger though? You can scale, you can scale positives with bigger. You can also scale negatives with bigger too. And Ash and I started talking about that. And I'm like, if I make $1,000 per door mistake on a 10-unit property, that's $10,000.
Yeah,
If
I can stomach that.
If I make that mistake on a 100-unit property, that's $100,000. And we just got to talking about that. And I think the last few years have taught us, because I think we saw a lot of guys get into these things who had no experience in real estate at all, no experience operating whatsoever. And they immediately jumped on 100 and 150 and 200 unit deals. And a lot of those guys have struggled because, hey, look at it. Tim, you and I have seen this. Like when you underestimate your CapEx on a 100-unit property, that's an exponential impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not one of those things. It's like, man, I was doing this flip over here, and I underestimated the cost to do the kitchen. It's an extra $5,000. You can probably find $5,000 somewhere. You underestimate that across 100 units, and it's like, man, I underestimated by $500,000. It's like that's a different ball game. Where are you going to go find that $500,000?
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
oh, you just go ask your investors. It's like, how many investors are happy about that? And then two, how many investors are actually going to participate in that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll have to say, I mean, we've had some scary deals. I mean, but some of that's life an entrepreneur, right? I mean, I remember a couple years ago now, talking to Javier, and Javier was like, man, like real estate sometimes can be feast or famine. Like one day you got $1 million in your account and everything's gravy. The next day you got $7,000 in your account and you're like, how do I pay my mortgage? And it's like, oh my God, like the amount of funds just going in and out and moving all the time can be very exhausting and also very nerve-wracking. I like to say it's called flying close to the sun,
Yeah.
and the sun being bankruptcy. Sometimes you
Yeah.
feel those rays.
Yeah, that's not a bad point at all, man. Yeah,
Woo!
I got nothing to add to
Hey,
flying
you know
close to
what?
this.
If those experiences have taught me anything, it just continues to solidify the fact of why,
Yeah,
yes, I invest in our deals, but I don't invest every penny that I have, because when liquidity is needed, where do you think it comes from? And that's super, super important. More valuable than what I thought. I didn't put enough value on that in early on in my career. And, you know, at what point would you consider yourself seasoned now? I mean, we've been doing deals for 5 years now.
you're seasoned. I mean, are you?
Seasoned 5+
Yeah,
years, I would say. I
yeah.
mean,
I mean,
in my
it
corporate
kind of
life, it
depends.
was 3 to 5 years. You became a seasoned, experienced professional.
You're probably going to have some old timers out there, and guys, I'm 51, so I may be one of them. But you're probably going to have some old timers out there that'll probably say you're not seasoned until you've been through at least a full market cycle.
The
So
last market cycle was like 15 years long,
well,
only
but
up.
well, but it started with a down, right? And
Yeah,
I think their argument there is like, to your point right there. You just solidified their argument. It's like all you've seen is up. You've never
yeah.
managed through a down cycle, and they're
So
going to say
think
you're
about the rebuttal now is going to be, well, I started at the top, rode it down, didn't lose everybody's money, and now we're on the backswing up. So what's more valuable, starting at the bottom or starting at the top, riding through the bottom, then going
I
back?
don't I don't think either is more value. I think what's valuable is experiencing both.
That's
Um,
fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what they would say is like, if you've only ever known bad, if you've ever only known good. And I'll tell you this, if you had to ask me to choose between the guy who started at the top and is playing up there, or the guy who like started at the bottom, I'm taking the guy that's like been through the shit first over the
Mhm.
guy who's only known roses.
And that's what I'm saying, the guy
Yeah,
to me, it's more valuable to have that experience earlier on in your career.
the
What
good or
was
the
it?
bad.
June 2022, 2023, when the Fed was doing 75 bip rates
Yep.
increases every 6 weeks. I mean, my gosh, that's when it all started, right? Living through that, having, what was it? Parks at Lanier. We were going through that
Mhm.
acquisition, and the rate was going up 75 basis point, went up a point and a half, just in the time that we had it under contract for 60 days. So it was like that was kind of the starting point of everything, and really taught me a lot of valuable lessons in terms of variable rate debt, right? Versus fixed rate debt, pros and cons versus both. And now, with the bank lending getting tightened and having a perspective of, hey, if we can get on long-term debt, let's do that, rather than play chicken with the Fed and rates, and being hopeful that rates are going to continue to go down. What's that saying? A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. That holds very true when you got fixed rate long-term debt.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, and yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, that's one piece, right? But then, the interest rates are one thing, but like we've talked about, taxes, insurance,
oh,
a
whew,
softening rental market. Those are all things that folks will say
yep,
until you experienced all those things, you really don't know. Um,
yeah.
and
We saw it. We saw it all over the last 18 to 24 months. It was cap
yeah,
rate decompression, rents softening, insurance and taxes going up 100, 200, 300%.
yeah,
Utility usage rates doubled. A payroll went up, what, maybe 15, 20% from where it used to be.
yeah,
All the while, it was like, the debt was continuing to go up, get more expensive, leverage was going down, property values were coming down. It was the perfect storm all hitting
yeah,
at the same time over the last year and a half.
yeah. Completely agree. Completely agree. And one of the things I still remember this very clearly. And I won't call out names, but I remember having a conversation with a younger partner on another deal, not Vitale guys, a younger partner on another deal, and he made the comment to me of real estate always goes up.
Ha.
He he goes, man, real estate always goes up, and fortunately, again, I'm being one of those guys. Fortunately, I had been through '08 and '09. And I can't tell you that in '06 and '07, if you'd asked me, if I wouldn't have made the same comment he did. Um, but because I've been through '08 and '09, I'm like, no, no, it doesn't. I I learned that the hard way.
Mhm.
But we hit these cycles, Tim, right? Like we hit these cycles where they're just doing this, and you get guys that jump in, and maybe they don't remember a certain period of time, and they're like, oh man, it just keeps going up. I'm like, no, no, it doesn't. Um,
Yeah.
you know, so
We're gonna be ready for the next one. I'm ready for that time period to come back.
yeah, yeah. And what's interesting is I told myself in like 2010, I was like, next time this happens, I'm going to be on the buy side.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and I'm not sure that we weren't on the buy side for part of it. Not as much as I would have liked to have been, but I will say this: to your point earlier, we've been on the management side of making sure that we kept what we had. Um,
Yep.
And that is for me, guys, personally, that's a win because I didn't keep what I had in 2009. I can tell you that. So,
Right, yeah,
um,
just getting through this cycle, it's been ugly,
yeah,
on a
yeah,
lot of fronts,
yep,
but getting through this cycle without losing assets puts you in a position to ride through the storm and continue to weather it as hopefully it starts to turn around here. My prediction still like another 24 to 36 months. We still got another 2, 3 years before it, starts getting exciting again. I think it's gonna be relatively flat in the next 2, 3 years.
yeah,
But what does that do for us? That puts us in a whole new league of experience, a whole new league of reputation, because you are the guys that have been through it, right? And when the market starts to pick up again and capital starts flooding to the multifamily space, not to say that it's not still there, but it's not like it was in 2020 and 2021, right?
Right.
Um, our rap sheet is going to look significantly different than a lot of other people's if everyone discloses it
Right.
truthfully, right?
Right.
And if I'm a betting man, to your point is I'm going to go with the guys that have been through it, that have the systems, have the processes, have the operations down. And we learned through a lot of the operational side over those last 24 months and managed to it. Um, we if we did not start the management company and manage it essentially as a break-even company with no money, no profit there, we would have lost other assets, right? Because we were able to forego payments, we were able to not charge management fees, we were able to eat a lot of costs and not make markup. We don't charge markup, right? So
Right.
all of the other for-profit businesses out there needed to and would have, and they would have put the properties under, right? So like we were able to buy time by reducing our costs and get through this, weather this storm, right? Ultimately, and thank God for the tax abatement.
Oh
That
yeah.
helped us
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
in a big way, on with all of our assets naturally qualifying to be nonprofit qualifying for the tax abatement.
See,
Seriously.
see, Tim, you never really own it because you pay property taxes.
That's right. You never own it. You just get to pay for it in maintenance costs and payroll.
Little inside joke, folks.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, that's all we got for today. I just want to kind of talk about bigger deals versus smaller deals. And, depending on the lens that you're looking through, if you self manage, then yes, a bigger deal is going to be more work on the asset management side and the equity side. Right. So, like we have Vive Equity, which is our equity company that handles asset management, that signs on the debt, that does the down payments and earnest money and does all that. Right. But then on the operational side, our management company is we put two different hats on, right? So like the equity company, really no different for us to buy a small deal versus a large deal. So my preference as an equity company is to buy a larger deal. And then on the management company side, my preference again is to buy the larger deal, right? But understanding that the perspective and the optics and the lens of what actually needs to be done at the ground level is significantly higher, needing more effort, more focus, more of a time commitment in order to get to your pro forma, to get profitable, to get to where you want to go and what you told your investors you were going to do. So to me, bigger deal always wins. It comes with a lot more risk, comes with a lot more gray hairs. But in terms of efficiency and scaling and operations, my preference obviously is definitely going to be with the larger deals.
All day.
So, all right, guys. Well, you got any closing remarks, Tim?
No, I
Ditto.
was just going to say, no, man, I would just say absolutely. I know we talked about big deals aren't always same effort or better. But from where we sit, we'll stick with bigger deals
Hmm.
rather than going back to smaller ones. And
Unless
but that
it helps our smaller deal. Like if we have another smaller
right,
deal in the area, we would definitely do another smaller deal. So combined, you
right.
have enough.
Yeah. So folks, don't take this as big deals are bad or good deals are bad. It's neither, right? It depends on
Hmm.
you. And that's what we're ultimately getting at is like, you
That's
hear
a great
people
point.
talk about bigger deals, same effort. That's not necessarily true. It depends on the operator. Let's just put it that way. So
Yep. So, all right, guys. See you
all
next
right.
week. Peace.
See ya.